Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back to Kids Club Online. Are you excited for our big adventure to the woods, our nature hike? I know Mr. Jim is. I'm a little sad, though. Bobo isn't feeling well, and so he's taking a nap. He's in bed because he had a runny nose and just didn't feel good. He's under the weather. You know, sometimes the plans we have don't always work out. I bet you have that too. You plan on something and it just doesn't work out. We always have to remember that it's not my plan or your plan that's the most important. It's God's plan. And so right now, even though we wanted Bobo to be here, we'll do this again some other time with Bobo. But today, it was more important for Bobo to start feeling better. So remember, whose plans are number one? Those are God's. Let's have a quick word of prayer before we start. Dear Jesus, thank you for this beautiful day. Thank you for the woods all around us and the fact that you are also all around us. Help us to let you guide our way. Help us to know that you have plans for our life, and they're plans to prosper us and not to harm us, to give us a future and a hope. Jeremiah 29:11. Thank you, Jesus, that you love us. In Jesus' name, amen. We are on the driveway to the farm. Now, this farm is called Trestle View Farm. And I'll tell you about the trestle in just a minute. But this driveway is an old railroad bed. Yup, that's right. The trains used to come down here when there was railroad ties and tracks, and the train would go doot, doot, down the driveway. But at that time, it was the railroad tracks. And you can see that it's long and straight and flat. And if you follow me and look, all the way down here too, it goes the other direction, way, way down there. And the reason it's called Trestle View Farm is this is nice and flat and straight, but where the property dips, there is a river down there. And we'll see that on our nature hike. Well, the train doesn't want to do this, up and down and up and down. And so they would keep it nice and straight. And then where the property dips down, they built a trestle or a bridge. And the train would go across that bridge. And that's why years ago, before the bridge was taken down, it was over there going through the valley. And that was the trestle. And so we call this Trestle View Farm. But if you notice this driveway, this railroad bed is so flat and straight. That's because it was built that way. This is not natural. Look over here. Can you see this big hill? All this dirt was piled up by men. They would dig and dig and dig, and with wheelbarrows and horses pulling dirt, they would bring it and they would dump it, and they built this steep hill with a flat top for the railroad to come down. And so here's one side. Follow me, take a look over here. It's pretty cool. If we walk over here, you're gonna see that there's another side to the hill. Think about all that dirt and all that work all the way down there. It's been here so long. Look at the big trees that are growing up into it. That's pretty amazing. Now, the trains did not run on gasoline or diesel fuel like your mommy and daddy's cars. They ran on coal. And that's something that you would burn like in a fireplace or a furnace. And men would take shovels and they would shovel it in. Well, if you look around on the ground, you can still see today pieces of coal. And this is what was in the back of the train. And men would take shovels and shovel it into the furnace, and that would get hot, and the water would turn to steam, and it was a steam engine. That's how it would work. The steam building pressure would make the engine move the whole train down the railroad. It's a pretty cool place. So this is Trestle View Farm, and this is the entrance to it. This is the driveway. In a little while, we're gonna go down the railroad bed, the driveway, and we're gonna turn down off of the edge, and we're gonna go down a switchback so it's easier to walk and start our nature hike into the deep woods. But I got one more thing I wanna tell you about. At the end of the driveway, out by the road, there's an old foundation, and that foundation is an ice house. Yup, an ice house. They would go down by the pond. Remember our big adventure to the pond where we went canoeing? Well, they would go down to the pond and cut big blocks of ice. And they would fill the ice house and cover it with sawdust. And that ice would stay all summer long. And the farmers around here, before there were refrigerators, before there were freezers, would bring their milk to the ice house right next to the railroad bed. And those big metal cans of milk, they would put ice around them, waiting for the train. And the train would come, and the milk would be cold and ready to be put onto the train. And then they would take the milk into the city so people would have milk to drink. And so this is a beautiful old place with all kinds of history. That was long before you were born. I bet it was even long before your mommy and daddy were born. I bet it was when your grandma and grandpa were real little. So that's how old this part of the property is, with history to learn about. Now we're gonna go down the railroad bed together, and we're gonna go see what we can see. Would you like to go see the old foundation? And maybe if you're here someday, play and make believe that the walls are still there? Let's go together. We're gonna walk and hike to the old foundation. Look at this, boys and girls. This is the old ice house, and this is the foundation. They used to have walls and a roof to keep the rain off. This is where the farmers would bring their milk, and the ice would be in here, all covered with sawdust as an insulation, so the ice wouldn't melt. And that was long ago. And all in here would be the big cans of milk, and the can would stand about that high and be about that round, really heavy. And men would take it and they would roll it on their edge. Where you are right now, well, right here, this used to be where there would be a platform that would go right out to the train. And that platform is where the milk would be rolled out and brought to the train. Now, years and years ago, all the farmers in the area would bring their milk here. Now, farms today are big because we have tractors and equipment that helps us get our job done. And so you could have lots of cows, even machines do all the milking. And so there can be a farmer who has 100, 200, 300, 400 cows. But way back when the ice house was, this whole area was filled with small family farms. A big farm would have 20, 30, 40 cows because everything was done by hand. All the milking had to be done by hand, and all the feeding had to be done by hand. And so all those small farms would bring their milk here, and the milk would be brought out onto the train, and it would go to the people in Middletown and even the people in New York City. That's pretty cool. That was back before your mommy and daddy were even born. I bet you it was when your grandma and grandpa were real little, and maybe even your great-grandma and grandpa. Wow! Well, this is a really cool place to explore and see the different rooms. Can you see the big tree that's here? This big tree wasn't here when this was being used. This was a platform, and so this big tree has grown after the ice house was no longer in use. Look what Mr. Jim just found. There must be a bird's nest up high, and this egg fell out. This is a blue robin's egg, and that's pretty cool. See that? And so it came out of one of the trees. One of the birds must have had a nest, and the egg fell. And so this one's not gonna hatch because mommy and daddy are not keeping the baby egg warm for it to have babies now. So this egg is probably going to be the food for some critter, something like a fox or maybe a raccoon or a skunk. So we're going to put that back right where Mr. Jim found it, because that's just how God works. God helps the baby chicks grow, but also in the world we live in, sometimes one animal will use another animal to stay alive. And so there's where a little egg was laying. All right, Mr. Jim's gonna hop down. Woo! Boom. And we're gonna keep looking around. And again, can you see how right there would be a wooden platform, and that platform would come all the way out here, and out here where the train was, the train would pull up next to the platform, and the milk would be brought out and put onto the train. And then choo-choo, down the track it would go. I see something pretty cool. Over there is a sand pit. Now, sometimes on a property, you'll be in a place that's all rocky, and sometimes it'll be all muddy and marshy, and sometimes all sandy. And we'll talk about that some other time, how God makes different parts of the world, different parts of a piece of property have sand and mud and rocks. But I see something pretty special over here. Do you guys know what a fox is? Over here, there is the home for a mommy fox. And I know last year we saw 5 little baby foxes running around. You see that hole? Come on, let's go look together. This is literally the home of a mommy fox. And at night sometimes, when a mommy fox wants to yell or call to her husband, she makes a very screechy sound. She almost sounds like a woman screaming, "Ah!" And it's scary if you don't know what it is. And all it is a mommy fox in the woods calling to her husband, the daddy fox. Now look, come on, let's look inside the den together. Can you see? And looky here, if you come real close, you can even see little indentations. Mr. Jim's putting his fingers in it. And that is where the footprint of the fox was. Way down in there right now, the mommy fox, she's sleeping. She's down there and she probably hears Mr. Jim and she goes, "I'm not going out there. There's a man out there. I'm not going out there." So down here is a fox's den, and that's pretty cool. And what's funny is they have a front door and a back door, just like you do at your house. Here's the front door, and over here is the back door. And since they decided to dig this in a nice sandy hill, it's easy to dig in. Wow, isn't it interesting and wonderful and great how our Creator God gives the animals the knowledge to do the right thing so they can take care of their babies, their little kittens. They can take care of themselves by having a home, just like you and just like Mr. Jim. We're gonna go this way now and start heading back down the railroad bed. Now follow Mr. Jim. I got something I want to show you yet. Remember I told you about how the property was built up by men digging and bringing all that dirt? Now look at here. You can see all the dirt of the mountain here. And if you guys follow me this way, you're going to see where they even built a spot for the water to go underneath. Can you guys see? See that one spot right there? That is like an old bridge, and the railroad would go across it, and some of the water would come down. And that was a way to drain the water away, because you wouldn't want the water to eat away at the side of the hill. And so that was, instead of the water pooling up and coming over the hill, it would go underneath the railroad. And that protected all the work that those men did. And so here is the old railroad bed. Now, like I promised, we're gonna go on our walk down the driveway, down the railroad bed, and we're gonna turn off. It'll go around the pond, but where we turn off, there's something called a switchback, and we're gonna go look at that together. Come on, boys and girls, let's go. We've come back down the railroad bed, and now we're ready to go into the deep woods. Now, the hill right here is going to have a turn in the path so that instead of it going straight down and being too steep, there's a turn. And if it was a longer hill, you would turn back and forth on the side of it. And that's called a switchback. Mr. Jim and his wife, Miss Heidi, when they first got married, they went to the Grand Canyon. And there are things called switchbacks where the donkeys would take you down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon. And on the farm here, Mr. Jim will actually use this switchback to ride the horses. It looks scary, but believe it or not, the horses are pretty good. Let's go see the switchback together. And this switchback was created or made by people. They actually took some old equipment. You can see the old metal wheel. That's probably from an old wagon. And it was put there so that the dirt could be stacked. And here is the switchback. Instead of going straight down the hill, I go to my side. And then I come down a little bit. And you stay right there, boys and girls. Look how far down Mr. Jim is going. All the way down to the bottom of the hill. And that's pretty cool. When you guys get down here, you're going to turn around and see the old wagon. It actually is an old manure spreader. What the farmer did is he put all the poop basically from the cows in the manure spreader, and it got thrown on the fields, and that was a fertilizer. And I guess his manure spreader broke down and he wanted to have a good use for it, and that's what he did. He built this switchback. So why don't you guys come down here by Mr. Jim, and if you're able to get down here nice and safe, be careful. All right, boys and girls, watch your step. Be careful. When you get down here, I want you to turn around and look, and you're gonna see the old wagon or manure spreader. And what would happen is these wheels and gears would move, and that would make all the dirt and manure that was in the wagon get thrown all over the place and spread out on the field. Now you're gonna still follow me a little bit. We're gonna go back this way, and you're gonna see an old fence, because I told you this was an old dairy farm. All around here were little family farms, and everybody had 10, 15, 20 cows, maybe 40, but that was a big farm, not by today's standards. And down here is an old fence line, a rock wall. And the farmers would take all the rocks from the fields and they would pile them up, and then they'd put a fence on top of it. You can see here's an old tree stump. And how, as time is going on, that tree stump is rotting away. But see the rocks? This is an old rock wall. And this right here, you can see it's a little mound again. Well, this was one of the ways in which the milk was brought up to the railroad platform. This was an old farm road that was also built, and also it ended up being here because the railroad men, when they built the big spot for the train, needed a way to get the dirt up there. And so they used this as a spot to drive all that dirt with a horse and buggy up to the top. Can you see the rock wall? It used to be much prettier many years ago, but right now it's fallen down because no one's taken care of it in years and years and years. And if you come a little further, can you guys see our pond? Remember our big adventure to the pond when we went canoeing? Well, there it is. And we're gonna go around the pond. Wow, look at that tree. I can only imagine. Mr. Jim can't even get his arms around it. I bet you this tree is over 100 years old, and that's pretty cool. So God is the God who takes care of his world for a long period of time, and he even takes care of every little second, every little moment, because God takes care of you. Now we're going to go down the path. We're going to follow the path through the woods, and we're going to come to our camping area, and that's pretty cool. So in just a moment, we have to get ready to go. Are you ready? Oh, I didn't hear you. Are you ready? Very good. Let's go. Here we are in one of the favorite spots back in the woods. At night, this is where my boys and I sometime would go camping. It's early spring, and so it hasn't been cleaned up. But can you see the fire pit? Come, let's take a look. Here is where there's a ring of stones, and we would have a campfire here, and then over here somewhere, we would set up a tent, and we would sleep. Now, we are underneath some big white pine trees, and I want you to look over here. Here's a pine branch that's come down, and this is how you can tell a eastern white pine. Can you see the needles? Aren't they pretty? And they're soft. Now, when Mr. Jim was a little boy, lots of times he would go camping and he would not take a tent. And he would take all kinds of white pines and lay them down, and that would be kind of like his soft bed. And he would take a tarp and put it over top so that he wouldn't get wet. But there's something interesting about white pines and pines in general. This big old white pine tree right here. Well, the Indians, so we're talking hundreds and hundreds of years ago, would peel the bark off, and the inner bark, if they scraped it off and dried it, they could eat that. And it would be like flour. They could make even something like pancakes. And that's how they would survive, not only by hunting, but by gathering things out of the woods. And so the inner bark of the tree, the pine tree, is something that you could eat. But this is pretty cool. That would take too much work for Mr. Jim today. But Mr. Jim has done this. If you take these pine needles and you take them off and crumple them up a little bit and put them in a cup with boiling water, you can make pine tea. And pine tea actually has vitamin C in it, just like oranges, just like Sunny Delight. Well, that was the way that the Indians stayed healthy. You and I need all kinds of vitamins and things, and the Indians figured out by God's leading, God gave them and you and me a good mind that vitamin C was inside the pine needles. And so they would get water hot and put the pine needles in it, and they would drink a pine needle tea to keep them healthy. So this is a really neat spot. And when all the leaves come on the trees later on, it's a nice quiet spot. Nobody knows you're here. Now I've got one more thing I want to tell you about the pine tree. It's a fancy word. It's called a conifer. That's kind of funny, isn't it? A conifer is a tree that doesn't lose its green in the wintertime. And a deciduous, there's another funny word, that's the tree that has all the leaves on it. And they turn red and yellow and brown in the fall, and they fall down. Well, those are the deciduous trees. Pine trees are called conifers. And look way up there. Can you guys see all the green needles? Well, those green needles stay on the tree even in the winter. And if you follow Mr. Jim, you could see that we are on the back side of the farm. And here's the pond, and there is the canoe that we went canoeing in, and up on the hill, the horses. And so we're going on our big adventure to the woods right now and taking our nature trail. But we have to make sure we stay on the trail, because if we go off the trail, we might go into a muddy area and get stuck. We might accidentally walk into an old fence. We might find pricker bushes and get all stuck in the prickers. Where you want to stay safe is staying on the path or on the trail. I think I remember a Bible verse that you're supposed to be putting in your head and hiding in your heart. Proverbs 3, verses 5 and 6. And it goes like this: trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. He will direct your path. And there's a song that goes with that. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord. Trust in the Lord and he will direct your paths. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. I hope you're remembering you're supposed to be studying that with the big people in your house. That's one of our treasure verses, yes, but more than that, it's one of our memory verses to put in your head and hide in your heart. So let's continue on our journey down the path that God has for us. Let's go, boys and girls. Here we are on the path. And can you see where the path goes between the pricker bushes? Now, these pricker bushes, they would hurt if I fell into, if they fell into them. And what's really cool about these pricker bushes, here's one that has an old berry on it from last year. Can you see the berry, boys and girls? Right there. Now, some of the berries in the woods are good to eat, like blackberries and raspberries. But these berries, they look pretty, but they would taste terrible and they would be poisonous. They would get you sick. God, though, put them there because there are certain birds that's what they eat. And that's pretty cool, that there's all kinds of things in the woods for you and Mr. Jim to eat, but also things not for us. Things for the birds and things for the animals like the mice and for the muskrats and the foxes. So God takes care of his creation just like he takes care of you and me. But what's important is to stay on the path. You know, deer in the woods, when we are looking in the woods, we'll find a path that's not meant for people. It's called a deer path. And that's because the deer have made it by walking on that path. It's a safe place for them. And here's the people path, the old farm road that goes around the pond and around the farm. And you can see there's sticker bushes on one side and sticker bushes on the other side. And if I was to step off the path, I could get stuck. And even though it's hard to see, these thorns are very, very sharp. Right there. Ooh, look at that needle. That would be very painful. It would hurt Mr. Jim. And so we want to stay on the path that God has designed for us. The path for your life and my life is to love God, to know Jesus, and live for him. So let's keep going. We're going to go down to the pond now and see the horses and skirt around into the woods. Come on, let's go, boys and girls. Can you boys and girls see the path that we're on? This is the old farm road that has now become a path through the woods. And you can see the old fields. This is where the cows used to graze many, many years ago. Here's the path going down, and we're staying on the path because we want to stay safe. We don't want to step into an old barbed wire fence or some pricker bushes. We want to keep going on the path that God has for us. Do you remember that Bible verse? We said it a little while ago. Proverbs 3, 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. Now the next place we're going to is the stream, and that's a fun spot. That's a great place in the summertime to go and splash around in the water. So let's go, boys and girls. We're on our way to the stream. Here we are down by the stream. Now we learned some fancy words before, some big, strange words. Do you remember we talked about the pine tree? And that's called a conifer. And we talked about the tree that has leaves that fall in the fall, and that was called a deciduous. Well, this is a stream, and it's a beautiful stream. It's nice and clear, and you can see the trees that are growing out over top of it. Well, this stream is called a tributary. Wow, that's a funny word. What does it mean? Well, a little stream will go into a bigger stream, and a bigger stream will go into a bigger stream, and a bigger stream will go into a little river, and a little river goes into a bigger river, and pretty soon it goes into the ocean. And those are all called tributaries when they feed each other. And so this little stream that comes up from the mountain and comes all the way down here by Trestle View Farm is going down, and it's going to feed the Shawangunk Kill, and that's the name of a river. Back in Scotland, you would never say the river, you would say I'm going down to the kill. And so this little stream is a tributary of the Shawangunk River, or the Shawangunk Kill. Let's go for a walk. Can you see all the moss? You have to be careful because that's a little slippery. And what's fun is to rock hop, where you step on the rocks and you try not to fall into the water. And this is how Mr. Jim likes to walk down the stream in the summertime when it's hot outside. And then once in a while you splash each other, and that's a lot of fun to do with my boys. So in the summertime, this is a beautiful place to go and just to listen to the water. So let's be real quiet and just listen. Just like the birds of the air, even the earth sings forth the praises of our God in heaven who made it all. And we ought to do the same thing with our voices and our lives. Let's go down to the river, okay, boys and girls? You follow Mr. Jim. We're on our way walking from the stream down to the river, and you can see the field and the hill, and it's way up there that the train would come out and go on the bridge way above our heads. But I found something special. Down here is the lamb's ear plant, and this plant has a very, very soft leaf, and this kind of leaf gets real big in the summertime, and if you had a cut, it was used years ago as a bandage, and you would put medicine on it and put that on the cut and wrap it up, and it's a gift from God. All around us are special plants and animals for you and for me to use, because God gives us gifts. He gives you the gift of learning how to read and learning how to do math. Some of you are good at singing. Well, God gives us gifts in nature, and we should always use the gifts that God has given us. Let's go down by the river, boys and girls. Here we go. Here we are, boys and girls, down by the river, the Shawangunk Kill. And if you look up here, you can see the field, and up top that hill is the end of the railroad bed, and that's where a bridge would start. Here behind me is the foundation that had a tower, and the bridge was way up high, and that's so the train did not go down into the valley and come back up. The train would stay going straight. And look at top of that mountain there. You can see the foundation on the other side of the river where the train connected, where the bridge connected. And so this is the Shawangunk Kill and Trestle View Farm. Now we talked about the stream being a tributary feeding the river. Look across the river. There's another little stream that's feeding the river, and that's pretty cool. Now I got one more thing I want to show you. Take a look at this tree over here. Follow me, boys and girls. Look at the bark on this tree. Isn't that funny? This is called a sycamore tree. And one of these days, we're gonna sing a song about Zacchaeus, because Zacchaeus was a wee little man, and a wee little man was he. And he climbed up in a sycamore tree to see what he could see. And this is how you could tell a sycamore tree, mostly by its bark. Can you see how that's very different than any other tree? Well, we're gonna go back to the house in a little while, or to church, and we're gonna have a time of prayer and talk a little more. But we've been on our big adventure to the woods on our nature hike. Always remember, you want to stay on the path that God sets out for you, because thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Let's always follow God's directions. Let's head home, all right, boys and girls? Well, boys and girls, we're back here at church. I hope you had a great time on our big adventure to the woods and our nature hike. Wasn't that a lot of fun? Now, there's a special song that goes like this. My Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. My Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. Strength for today is mine always, and all I need for tomorrow. My Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. Try that with me and do some of the hand motions. My Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. My Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. Strength for today is mine always, and all I need for tomorrow. My Lord knows the way through the wilderness. All I have to do is follow. We had so much fun going down the old railroad bed and going down the hill and the mountain and following the path and seeing the stream and the river and the foundation of the old ice house and the foundation for the trestle where the train could be. And I can't wait until Mommy and Daddy and some of the big people can come with me and you, and we can go exploring together. Maybe we'll find something special like the lamb's ear plant, or maybe we'll find a sycamore tree that Zacchaeus climbed up into, or maybe we'll find a cedar tree or a white pine tree. There are so many things at all different times of the year. Special little things are on the farm and in the woods. And that's how wonderful our God is, because he watches over you and he watches over me and all his creation. There's a song that talks about how we can do things with our God. You and I can climb every mountain, cross every stream, and drink from every fountain in his name. In his name, in his name. You and I can climb every mountain, cross every stream, and drink from every fountain in his name. In his name, in his name. Now, today we're not going to give you any new verses to read with the big people in your house. We have lots and lots of treasures that we've already given you. The 2 verses that you need to work on to put in your head and hide in your heart are John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believeth on him should not perish, but have everlasting life. John 3:16. Are you learning it? I know you are, and I'm so proud of you. And the other verse that we even have been singing with a song is Proverbs 3:5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. He will make your paths straight. Let's sing that together. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths. Trust in the Lord, trust in the Lord, trust in the Lord, and he will direct your paths. Now I called Bobo, and Bobo is starting to feel much, much better. So next time, he's going to be here with Mr. Jim, and we're going to ask him, we're going to let him think and choose what our next big adventure is going to be. Isn't that exciting? Because Bobo didn't get a chance to go because he wasn't feeling good. And so we'll ask him what he would like to do. I'll see you next time, boys and girls. And remember, Jesus loves you. We're going to pray together. Dear Jesus, thank you. Thank you that you can bring us through the woods. You can bring us on a pond. You can bring us over a river. You are with us all the time. And we ask, Jesus, that you would grow in our hearts and that we would get closer to you and that our eyes and our ears and our hearts and our minds would be more open to you, to see you and to hear you and to know you. We pray this in Jesus' name, amen. Remember, boys and girls, who loves you? That's right, Jesus loves you. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.